For now, let's get to one of our favorites. You know her. You love her. It's Marlene Jennings. Hi, Marlene.
Hi, Elias.
President of the Quebec Community Groups Network. Need to mention that. Marlene, you're on this morning because we need to talk about the situation Anglophones find themselves in this province. Before the news, I said basically Anglos in Quebec were between a rock and a hard place. The rock is the Quebec government and Bill 101 and retooling Bill 101. The hard place is federally the pressure that is on the Liberal government and other political parties that are putting pressure on modernizing the Official Languages Act, and maybe how Anglophones are going to get the short end of the stick on that. So I want to tackle both of these things this morning. First things first, let's start off with the province and the modernization of Bill 101. What kind of conversations, if any, are you having with the province on this?
No conversations. Notwithstanding the fact that as president of QCGN, I was elected in November 2020, sent a letter to Premier Legault, because he's not only the Premier, he's also the Minister responsible for the English-speaking minority communities, sent a letter to Jennings, the Minister of Justice, who's also responsible for the reform of Bill 101, asking for meetings, and yet nada.
How frustrating is that, Marlene? How frustrating is that with your new role at the Quebec Community Groups Network, that they won't even have a meeting?
It's unconscionable. I mean, when you have Minister Lebel, who came out with Quebec's position on the modernization of the Official Languages Act, saying that Quebec will be responsible, will definitely take into account the needs of the English-speaking minority communities. Her government establishes their position, which, by the way, is, if it actually happens, is unconstitutional, without even consulting us. No call, no letter, no email, no tweet, no Instagram, nothing. They didn't consult our community before coming up with their position, which, as I say, is actually unconstitutional.
And Marlene, I really can't believe it, because, when you look at Anglophones that have a decent relationship with the CAQ government, they picked you to be the trustee of the English Montreal School Board. They know you. They know your phone number. They know how to reach you. So
they know where I live.
Yeah, they know where you live.
My home address.
So why aren't they talking to members of the English community like you, Marlene?
Because I think because they don't want to hear what we're going to say, which is, one, if that position is unconstitutional, it actually goes against the Constitution Act of 1867. It goes against the Charter. It goes against the Official Languages Act. And it's either being done intentionally, or it's because you don't understand our Constitution and our laws. And you didn't understand what the Supreme Court of Canada actually said about equality of both official languages.
We're with Marlene Jennings, president of the Quebec Community Groups Network. Now, Marlene, normally you'd say, okay, well, we're always going to be facing this brick wall dealing with the Quebec government when it comes to Anglophone rights. At least we always have the federal government to protect us. And boy, sometimes in the last few months, it seems like they're also planning to drop the ball on this one. But you did have a meeting, right, with Melanie Joly about the Official Languages Act?
Yes. I've had more than one meeting. I've had, private conversations with her. And I think that the danger that the federal government would even contemplate allowing Quebec government to take over federal jurisdiction on language is now a non-starter.
Okay.
So that's really good news. And when Prime Minister Trudeau and Melanie Joly both stated, after Quebec came out with its position, that the federal government will not cede its jurisdiction in the issue of language rights, that was really good, because that made it very clear. Federal government is not going to fall into Quebec's trap and cede its jurisdiction. I mean, can you imagine the Quebec government that has consistently and historically opposed Francophone communities and rights outside of Quebec in the courts? They haven't supported those court challenges. They've actually opposed them. Mm-hmm. They've lost all the way along the way, but they have not shown themselves to be a promoter of the French and protector of the French language in French minority communities outside of Quebec. One. Two, the Official Languages Act has been in effect for 50 years, and never has a Quebec government challenged it on the basis that it doesn't protect French, that it intrudes on provincial jurisdiction. They've never done that. Why? Because it doesn't.
Marlene, I have to ask you, because it gets trickier on the federal side because it's a minority government. There will be an election sooner than later, according to most prognosticators. And you've got the Conservatives and I think the NDP, and you correct me if I'm wrong here, that seem to be way more open to ceding matters of language to the Quebec government. Your thoughts?
Well, I've been able to meet with Aaron O'Toole and had a really good meeting with him. And one thing was clear, to me anyway, the Conservative government and his advisors may not have actually given him all of the pertinent information, in particular Supreme Court judgments and the actual framework that it has set. So there's a lot of confusion over substantive equality and what that actually means. And when we and I really explained it, it was like certain bells went off. So I'm hopeful that we'll be able to continue our dialogue with the Conservatives and that they may be a little bit more leery of jumping into Quebec's bag of tricks.
One last question, quick question for you, Marlene. When it comes back to Bill 101 and the provincial government, if they eventually say yes to a meeting, if they want to meet with you and you meet, what will you present to them when it comes to modernizing Bill 101 that you think would be acceptable for Anglophones?
Well, one of the things that we would tell them is that the use of English does not, and members of our community using our rights does not in any way imperil the French language. That's the first thing. Secondly, if you want to improve the French language and it's, especially in the workplace, how about you start hiring some of our fluently bilingual graduates of our high schools, CEGEPs, and universities? I mean, how about you open up that door?
Well,
we
Marlene,
do better on provincial French exams than do Francophones educated in the French schools.
Marlene, keep up the good fight. Thanks for coming on the program.
Thanks a lot, Elias. You be well.
That's Marlene Jennings, president of the Quebec Community Groups Network.